Hello BitMonger family, Monger with you here today. Hope you guys are all doing great. And in today's video I'm going to talk about Bitcoin. We just had a massive sick dump and I got really lucky on that one. I'll talk about that in the video in a bit. And I'm also going to look at Solana. I got into that one as well. But yeah, right now we are experiencing some serious fear in the market. I don't know what caused that liquidation, but something definitely broke in the system to have that utter breakdown that we had at this stage. Something must have broke. We'll figure it out. I'm sure something's going to come up in the news. But the RSI level on Bitcoin has hit one of the lowest levels it's ever hit in its history. And that to me is a good sign, guys. Especially if you got dry powder like I do. These are times to make some buys. Nibble. I mean, I'm not gonna, sugarcoat this, but we certainly could still go lower. But when we are at these types of prices, I believe if you're a long-term holder, it's certainly a good time to nibble. And let's go ahead and take a look at what happened here. So we can see, look at this bloodbath. It was these candles here, and it absolutely puked. It just went down massively. And I happened to wake up and was getting up at this time, and luckily I was in front of my computer. I usually, after I wake up, soon after I wake up, I look at the market, and I could see I woke up and Bitcoin was wicking down here and popping back up, and the BitMonger jumped into a trade. And then I scaled it up, and I am currently nicely in profit. I'll show you those in a bit. So it's bouncing back up. We can see it's coming up here. It looks like it got rejected off of this level. This is the top. You can see it topped out right there along with these, right? It lines up perfectly on both of those tops, and that's at like 66.8. And this yellow line right here, which is at 64.8, looks like a solid level where it went range bound. It dipped below a little bit and then it came up. So we might be, we'll have to see, but we might be going into a range bound situation. We'll see if this one holds. If this doesn't hold, then the next area that I might be looking at would be like right here on these two candles, and that's all the way down at 63.8. So those are the two key levels that I'm looking for it to hold: 64.8, 63.8. If it breaks down below that, we could go back into Goblin Town, and it wouldn't be good. And I believe that this is a relief balance on a certain level. It's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if this tries to push back up to like 69K. That was the previous cycle's top, guys, way back, earlier in the day. So it makes sense that people would want to see it get back above that. That's a critical point. In retrospect, that would be like the cycle 2 cycles ago. It would have been the 20K mark of the 2017 high, right? I mean, that was the one. It would be like dipping below that one. So, and we did. If you guys remember last cycle, during the whole mayhem, Bitcoin went from 69K all the way down to 15.5. So, based on that, it's possible if we were to experience something on those similar lines, based on that kind of math, 69 all the way down to 15.5, we got up to 126. Could it get down to the 30s? It could. I mean, it's possible. I mean, clearly it's possible. So, Bitcoin could come down further. And the thing that freaks me out is, like I had mentioned to you guys before, if we look at the S&P 500, right? Let's take a look at that. And let's look at the daily chart. So we got the past 3 days where we've had this drawdown. But let's take a look at that. How much has it drawn down in these past 3 days? Here's the top. And it drew down to this line right here, roughly. We're looking at a 3% drop, guys. That's fucking it. Only a 3% drop, and look at what's happened to our Bitcoin. So if this thing were to drop another, 10%, let's say it gets down to this level here, say, like what is that, 60, call it 6,500, which I remember that was a mark in the sand before, or at this line here, these bottoms here that I had picked out here on this line, which is at 6,539. If it breaks below that, it could drop quite a bit further, but still, only on a 3% drop, and we got this going on, right, with our Bitcoin. We got this going on with Bitcoin. Trading at 6,500. Man, I'm feeling like a fucking genius, I gotta say, because like I told you guys, I took out a huge chunk of my Bitcoin. I sold off a large chunk of my crypto back at the beginning of October. So, and I bought some Bitcoin before I nibbled, and I nibbled some more this morning. I happened to catch Bitcoin at under 61K. And I also threw a long on it, and kaboom, guys, I'm fucking up in some serious dough. If I see it drop below one of those levels there, I'm going to probably just, cut the trade and say thank you very much, because I dropped about, roughly $4,000 on this trade. You can do the math. This is a fucking nice payday for me. Good day. If I can make over $1,000 a day, I'm living life. And I also pulled this one too. I pulled it on Sol. It went up. I made 12%. That one got cut out and closed. And then I reopened it, and I'm up 20% on my Sol trade. So guys, and I threw about $2,000 on that one. So again, between those two, it's like $1,500 a day. Yeah, baby. I'm loving it. And that's what's going on right there, guys. And I'll be watching it closely. And hopefully we make some more sick bank. And I'm hoping that, Bitcoin continues to go down even further. If you got dry powder, that's what you should be wishing for, because that's when you accumulate. And that's it right there, man. What is that showing you? We're at 9, and we are in extreme fear. And generally speaking, and I was telling one of my buddies who's, I'm like, if you're patient and you're just a simple strategy is to buy extreme fears and sell when you get into extreme greed or near extreme greed. If you just follow that simple method, assuming that you're not buying the extreme fear at the beginning of a bear market, that's where you got to be careful. So, you need to be focused on that. But when you buy extreme fear after it's dumped, a huge amount from where it started, and preferably you sold kind of near that top, and you have dry powder, these are not bad times historically at all to be buying, your coins. This is how I was able to retire early, is I was buying crypto and coins when everybody had left the party and was thinking it was dead and nothing was going to happen. Those are the times where you need to be nibbling, keeping an eye on it, and, adding to your bags. At some stage, I don't think dollar cost averaging is great. Some people say it's all wonderful in that, but I would say I would argue dollar cost averaging is good during a bear market. But as soon as we start, flipping, halfway up from the previous, as soon as we are clearly in the start of a bull market, and you've gone up, say, maybe 50% on what you had originally bought down on near the bottoms, I would say roughly, I would generally say that's probably when you want to stop, dollar cost averaging. Unless you're on a super, super long time frame, like 10 years or something, then that's different. But generally speaking, I don't like to look longer than 4 to 5 years out, just because I feel like the world's changing too rapidly to be able to, really try to speculate much further outside that. I mean, you can on some things. Like, I'm really big on Tesla, guys, as you know. I believe, even though I like Elon character, what he's doing with that company with, the fully self-driving vehicles and robotaxi and the mega packs, and then, Optimus robots. I believe that's the total addressable market, all those S curves gliding. Go back and look at my video on Tesla. I'm very bullish on that one long term. Yeah, anyways, guys, 9 on fear. Keep an eye on it. We'll see if it starts to roll over. What do we got here? What's it doing? Let's take a quick look at it. Because I'm still in that trade. As I told you, I got into that really early. I got so lucky because if I hadn't woken up and looked at my computer, I would have missed it. So yeah, what's Bitcoin doing? All right, well, we're sitting right on that line, man. We'll see if it goes underneath it. Again, if it breaks underneath these guys, if you're in a long position, this is where I would exit. Or if you're really big in profit, like what I am right now, maybe it makes sense to exit if we break under this one. But it could come down here and bounce off of this bottom here and then start to run it back up. But we'll see. Personally, like I said, I'm not too I think the traditional markets could fall much further. I think Bitcoin could fall further in the event that were to happen. We've only gone down 3% in the S&P. For it to go down 10%, 15%, especially after the massive run-up it's had, it would not surprise me one bit, guys. So, be nimble. All right. Hope you guys are all doing well, making good moves. Shake and bake. Monger.